Dr. Kelsey here, talking about weddings again, trying to help the brides who are preparing for their wedding to understand a few things about weddings, and considering that, you guys may have been to a few weddings, but you're not into weddings as much as some of us are. Bottom line is, I did a little video presentation, kind of briefly going over a reception, and now I want to go over a traditional brief outline of a wedding ceremony. So, the different components you think of, and I emphasize this in every aspect of a wedding. Every aspect of a wedding, there's a lot of tradition, but there's no rules. You do not have to wear a white dress. You do not have to have flowers. You do not have to have photography. All these things, those music, add-ons and whatnot, add to the flavor of the day. There's no doubt about it, but none of them are required. I've married couples in the booth at a Waffle House. I've married couples in the aisle of a Belk's. I've married a couple in the cab of their 18-wheeler. The setting doesn't matter. Either way, the marriage takes place. Next, this ceremony, everything we do on this wedding day, quote unquote, everything we do on this wedding day, none of it creates the marriage. It creates it in a legal sense by the paperwork we do with the state, which is a secular document, but it doesn't create the marriage. The marriage takes place in the heart. That's why you go to Bible times and you find no weddings in the Bible. It was a family arranged thing. That's why Jesus never officiated a wedding, but he replenished the wine. That was for the wedding feast. Bottom line is that the wedding certificate as such is a fairly new document in our society. I'm not going to go into the history of that. It's easily found if you want to research it. But keep in mind, marriage happens in the heart. Marriage is a matter of heart, not of paperwork, not of a ceremony. We are, and it's good. I mean, I call the wedding ceremony is like baptism. It's a public declaration of what's taking place in the heart. Baptism, if you're a religious person, you got baptized as a Christian, that in itself, in essence, does nothing, but it is a symbolic action that gives a public expression as to your dedication to your God. And it's the same with a wedding. So some people call the wedding marriage a sacrament, but again, a lot of tradition in weddings, but there's no rules. You can do what you want. In Alabama, that even extends even further, because the process we use of getting married in Alabama is totally different than any place else I know of on the planet. No marriage license is issued in Alabama anymore. You go to a website called Alabama Department of Health, and then you go in there to vital records, and then you go to marriage certificate, and then for the most part you would click on adult. And if you're underage and need a parent's consent, then you would click on the second button, and it's pretty self-explanatory. That leads you to a PDF form that you'll fill out online. The biggest mistake made on that form is the couple not using the mother's maiden name. You use the mother's maiden name, not her married name. That's the biggest mistake I see on these forms. If I'm the one officiating your wedding, I always want you to get that filled out early in the game and send me a copy of it. I'll inspect it to make sure that you've got it correct, so that on the day of your wedding, your signatures can be notarized and you can have the legal document to file with the state proving that you are married. So, wedding ceremony. Traditionally, there would be seating and an aisle in the middle of the seats. Traditionally, the parents, the immediate family, would sit on the front row with the parents sitting closest to the aisle. Music would start. There would be 15 to 20 minutes of prelude music so that your guests are not arriving to dead air. And then at the time of the processional to begin, there would be a song for seating of parents and grandparents. If you are doing that, that is not a requirement. there would be then a song for the wedding party, meaning the groom, the groomsmen, and the bridesmaids, a flower girl if you're having one, a ring bearer if you're having one. The flow of that would be the minister / officiant would come out with the groom, followed by the best man and the groomsman. And sometimes I would suggest to the groom that he escort and usher his mother to her seat. And that again is your choice. Then the bridesmaids would come out. And then if you've got a ring bearer, he would come out next. And then if you have flower girl or girls, they would come out spreading their little flowers down the aisle. Then the music would change, at which point the officiant would have the guest to stand for the entrance of the bride. I suggest that whoever is escorting the bride, and that can be her father, that can be her mother, that can be her mother and father, it could be a stepfather and the father, it could be the father going halfway up the aisle and passing her off to the stepfather. It doesn't matter. I've seen sons give away their mother. I've seen the bride come down the aisle by herself. So all those options are on the table because, again, there is no rules, only tradition. When the bride is being escorted, I always recommend that she stop with whoever is escorting her at the front row of seats. Do not come all the way upon the officiant and the groom, to stand back. And then the music would die, and traditionally the words, "Who gives this woman to be married to this man," would be asked. If those words you find inappropriate, you could say, "Who presents," "Who blesses," "Who escorts," any version of those words. And there's been occasion where I've said nothing at all. It's not required. The groom would go up. If there's a father, he would shake the father's hand, and then he would bring and escort his bride up to where we're standing. I have them face each other the entire time. The maid of honor would get the bouquet, and the maid of honor would also straighten her dress. There's some things to think about there. The best way to do that is her to pass her bouquet off to the next maid of honor, next bridesmaid, and then have the straighten the dress, and then collect the bride's bouquet and her bouquet and hold during the ceremony. I have the couple facing each other the entire ceremony, holding hands. The focus is on them, not me. I am simply facilitating a ceremony for them. I am speaking a lot, and I'm also thinking about the photography, and my rule on photography is only one thing, and that is to keep the bride happy. So next to that, if it's a religious ceremony, we open with prayer. Then I have everyone seated, and we get into the introduction of the ceremony. We get to the point where I'll ask the groom, "Do you take this woman to be your wife?" More words than that. The groom would appropriately say, "I do." And then I would ask the bride the same question, "Do you take this man to be your husband?" And she would answer, "I do." Then we would do the vows. Some couples choose to write their own vows, and that is great. The groom would go first, the bride would go second. Then the ring exchange. I like to talk about the hands a little bit before we do the ring exchange. If the ring bearer is holding the rings, I would ask for the rings. A lot of times the best man's holding the rings. Used to be they'd give the maid of honor one ring, and then the best man one ring. I suggest you give both rings to the best man, because the maid of honor, matron or maid of honor, has her hands full with a bouquet and straightening the dress, and you're just adding to her list of things to do. If you've written your own vows, again, the groom will still go first. The bride, I would generally say, I'd ask the bride to give me her vows, and I'll hand them to her at the appropriate time. And then from there, she would read her vows, and then I recommend that when she's through reading her vows to her groom, that she would hand the vows to him to hold and not give them back to me. After that, keep in mind during this whole time, if you are writing your own vows, I'm stepping out of the picture. There's no point in me standing behind you as you are sharing your personal vows, your personal words to each other in that public way. I step out of the picture. When you're putting on the rings, I'm going to make sure of two things. Number one, that if the bride has an engagement ring, that she may want to remove it at that point to put the wedding band on before the engagement ring. I'm also going to suggest, I always say, as you put the ring on her left hand ring finger, repeat these words. The ring vows can be as short as with this ring I thee wed. And I'll also suggest, I'm not telling you what to do, but I highly suggest you point her hand forward so a picture can be gotten of the ring going on and the guests can see it going on. The same thing when she puts the ring on the groom's hand. After that, we usually go into anything from the couple sharing a first communion to a unity candle, a sand ceremony, and I have some interesting, almost unheard of things to suggest to my couples that I'm not going to share here. And then after that, whatever at that point takes place, anything from a tree planting to the sand ceremony to the unity candle, and the many numerous things you can do to symbolize your marriage, your uniting. Then we would get into pronouncing you husband and wife. You share your first kiss. For the first kiss, I always step out of the picture. You share your first kiss, then I have you face your guest, you get the bouquet, and I will introduce you as Mr. and Mrs., and then the reception. The recessional starts at that point. So that is a brief outline of a wedding ceremony. And it's a template, if you would like, to help you get to that. If you're standing there and it's normal to be nervous. First of all, you're standing in front of usually a group of people. Most people are not accustomed to being the center of attention. Some people don't like being the center of attention. So there's nerves. The bride has gone through getting makeup, getting hair. Everybody's anticipating seeing what she looks like with this dress. They're seeing the groom dressed up for the first time in his life. So you're all the center of attention. There's nervous energy. There's tension. If I, as your officiant, can create a situation to where you can laugh just a little bit, not to make a Comedy Central routine out of it, you'll relax. Everybody does. You can feel all the guests relax. And I always tell my couples that keep in mind, for the most part, at these weddings, you're going to go straight from the ceremony to a party. What the Bible calls a wedding feast. You're going to go to a wedding reception. You're going to dance. There's going to be music. You're going to, a lot of times there's drinks flowing and so forth. So don't be afraid to allow a little lightness in the entire thing. There is going to be a highly charged emotional day because of just what we go through with this wedding ritual. So my job as a wedding officiant is to keep things light and serious, but to keep things on a level that bring comfort and calmness to your day. And I want it to be memorable. So anyway, to help you out a little bit, there is a generic flow of a ceremony. I work with each couple to make sure that the ceremony reflects who they are. It's not about me, it's about them. I'm there to facilitate their day or their wedding ceremony. And I want it to reflect who they are, their philosophies, their personalities. I'll ask about their hobbies, how they met, different things. I'm not doing it to be judgmental in any way. I'm doing it so I can better serve them. So there you go. My website's, my name is www.kelseygraham.com. And I have a team. I have networked over the years. I am human. I can get sick. I can have trauma. I can die. It's always been a concern of mine through previous experience with a bride years ago in Coleman, Alabama. Her minister died the week of her wedding. So my whole philosophy was, I don't want to die, but I'm going to someday. I want to not be a problem. So to be professional, I purposely networked other professionals that, if needed, they're on call to fill in. It's an insurance policy to you. And I suggest that you do that with all your vendors, your DJ, your photographer, whomever. It's like, ask your DJ, what happens if you get sick? Do you have somebody to back you up? Same with a photographer. What happens if you get sick, if you have a trauma, if you have an issue, end up in the hospital, whatever? What's your backup plan? I've got a backup plan, and I don't know, I'm not saying there's no other efficient minister that does that, but I know I do it. And so if something happened to me, you don't have to panic. There are 3 others in my organization. Somebody will step in and serve you the same way that I would serve you. So I just want to emphasize that. You should check with all your vendors. What happens if you've got a problem? What happens if you end up in the hospital, grandmother dies, whatever? How am I covered? A lot of people don't realize it too, and you can look this up on your search engine. I'm not going to recommend any insurance company above another, but very inexpensively, you can get an insurance policy for your wedding. That means even if your dress gets damaged or a lot of different things, you're covered. So keep that in mind, because wedding vendors historically, it's common that they do not refund deposits. So if you want to be covered and take care of yourself, search the internet. There's more than one company out there that provides wedding insurance. So there is my little piece of stay calm, enjoy your day. Marriage happens in the heart. That wedding ceremony does not create the marriage. That is a public declaration of what's taking place in the heart. It is a special day. It is a special moment. And I'm going to make it very special for you. Congratulations to you. And if you need me, 888-501-6689. I serve the entire Southeast from the Gulf Coast up through Tennessee, all the way to Savannah, Georgia, and across Mississippi, because this is what I do, and it's all I do. Congratulations to you.